Hello, I have the Papalook model PA930 web camera. Here we go. It is an HDR 2K camera at 30 frames per second and 60 frames per second at 1080p. So let me get into this box if I can. There we go. And we can take a look together, see what it looks like inside. Okay, got a cleaning cloth, which is nice for the lens. The manual. Should be pretty easy to set up. It's going to be a plug and play web camera, so nothing really to worry about there. The web camera, and this is a nice feature, which you don't often see with web cameras, or I've never had a web camera that came with one of these. And it is a little tripod. Yeah, very useful. Telescopic tripod. It's metal. Yeah, good quality. It's nice to see. Let's have a look at this web camera. So the first thing you'll notice, it does slightly resemble the Logitech web camera. There's a privacy cover on here first, but you can just see this material on here. It is a fabric. And yeah, it does look like a Logitech web camera that you might be familiar with, but it is not. This is a different one. And also this one is a lot cheaper than the Logitech web camera. So very simple privacy feature with this cap. So that's one side. The stand has obviously a thread on there for here. For the tripod, which is kind of cool because it means you can adjust it on the tripod as well, so you can get different elevations, which is very useful. Or just for monitor usage, pretty much a standard sort of a stand for the monitor. That's sort of rubberized there, and it'll just sit on the monitor, and then you can move it up and down. So yeah, pretty decent. Does it swivel? No. Oh, it does swivel. It does swivel. That's good. And USB cable. It's USB 2. So I would expect there's going to be some image compression if it can do 60 frames per second and 2K over USB 2, but we'll see in a moment what that's like. But yeah, pretty solid so far. It's very neat. So let's get this set up and we can check it out. The first thing we're going to get out of the way is testing the microphone on the web camera. Normally when I review a web camera that has a microphone, I will try to use the microphone in the web camera for as much as I can in the video. That's not really possible here, and you'll see in the moment. So at the moment I'm using this microphone, but we'll switch over to the microphone in the web camera and you'll see what I mean. Okay, so hopefully you can hear me at least partially clearly over that fuzz from the microphone. If I stay quiet for a moment, just take a moment to listen to it. I mean, it is horrendous. It's really loud, and although you can hear me, I mean, it is so distracting. It is basically a useless microphone. So let's switch back to this one. Initially I thought maybe my unit was faulty, and then I seeked out some other online videos that demonstrated the microphone in this web camera, and it all sounded just as terrible as this. So one wonders why they bothered to put a microphone into a web camera when the microphone is basically non-usable. It is useless. Papalook, you need to look at this, because this is going to basically affect sales of this product. People are going to return it if they can't use the microphone. Obviously not everyone wants to use a microphone in a web camera, and that's fair enough, but by the fact is it's a feature which is sold, you know, on the box, on the website, as a noise cancelling microphone. You'd think it'd do a decent job, although it simply does not. So let's move on to more positive things right now. And there are positive things to say about this web camera. I think the picture quality is really good. The smoothness of the image is good. The sharpness of the image looks good. Skin tones, colors, everything is well reproduced. It looks as it should do. I'm really happy with it. So one thing you will need to do, just like with any web camera, don't use the auto exposure, don't use auto white balance, adjust that manually. Otherwise you will kind of get some kind of issues with with overexposure generally with when you use auto exposure. Just let me demonstrate it. So I've currently got it set at -6. I think that's the sweet spot for this web camera, because if you have a manual setting and you overexpose it too much, what will happen is it will affect the frame rate, everything gets blurred, etc. And that's not too bad, but a little bit bright for at least for the lighting conditions I have. 6 I think is perfect, and you can see 7 a little bit dark. So let me turn on auto exposure, and you can see motion is smooth and it looks okay, but it does look a little bit bright, and you can just see if I show you my skin there, it's like super overexposed on my skin there and on my head. So best is to kind of manually adjust it. I think -6 is about the sweet spot, I think, for this web camera. As for white balance, yes, turn that off and edit that as well manually. If I turn on auto white balance, you can just see the image gets quite cold. So you're best off just manually setting that to whatever is going to work with your lighting conditions in your room. But overall, I think this looks excellent. I'm really happy with this. A good high quality image coming from this web camera. So something that has confused me a little bit about this web camera is on the top there's a button, and that's for switching between 60 FPS and 30 FPS. But what is weird, and I will demonstrate it because you can do it on the fly, is if I press the button now, it changes the field of view. So I can tell you that the field of view that we've been using for the majority of these tests is 90 degrees field of view, and if I press it again, it's clearly bringing it in a lot closer. I'd say it's more like 68, 70 sort of degrees field of view, I guess. But what I haven't kind of worked out, I tried to see if I could. Is it making a difference? I was kind of waving my hands around, seeing if it looked like it's 60 FPS compared to this one, and it looks kind of the same to me. I'm finding it hard to distinguish a difference between that and that, and I think this is probably 60 FPS. Now I'm looking at it again, I think this is the actual, I think it does look a little bit smoother to me. Maybe you can tell as well, but obviously YouTube optimizing the video recording, it may kind of make it almost impossible for you to tell the difference. But to me, I'm looking at the preview in OBS, and I think this is 60 FPS. So this is the 60 FPS at 1080p, or and weirdly, I have to say, when you move to this one, this field of view is also the same resolution as when you go into OBS settings and you change it to the 2K resolution. This is the picture you'll get, this is the framing you'll get, and if I press the button it won't do anything, it'll just basically show exactly the same thing. So it's only when I set it at 1080p 60 frames per second in OBS I'm able to use this button and switch between this and this. It's a kind of weird one because the manual is rather vague on it. It just says the button is to switch between 30 and 60. So, seemingly this is the resolution that would be set at 2K, and this is the 1080p resolution. It is kind of an odd one. I've never seen anything like this on a web camera. I kind of like it as a feature because certainly having something that you can bring in the picture just by pressing the button without having to kind of move the web camera so you can get something in closer is kind of a clever feature. But the way it's been labelled in the manual doesn't make any sense to me. I find it really weird. But this is what you do. You press the button and effectively it changes the field of view. And yeah, it's brilliant. It's kind of a useful feature. I like it. But I wish there was more information in the manual to kind of make kind of clear that it does this. because you have to find out for yourself. It's a strange one, but yeah, I like it. I've now set the resolution to 2K in OBS, and this is the field of view, 90 degrees field of view, the same as we saw before when I was pressing between the button on the 1080p. And if I press the button now, you'll see this absolutely does nothing. It just freezes a moment and just shows me the same thing. So interesting, you know, compared to the previous segment when I was switching between the two modes and the field of view. I've kind of got a feeling that it's actually changing not only the frame rate but also the resolution, because this looks exactly as it did as the previous bit I showed you when we had this 90 degrees field of view. That's what I'm thinking. If I find out more, maybe Papalook will answer this when they watch this video, and I can add some notes to the video description. But right now, that's kind of what I'm thinking. But yeah, curious one, but you know, this is what it looks like at 2K. The web camera has a fixed focus lens, and that means there's no autofocus, and I can demonstrate with the box. You can see everything looks pretty sharp here, but as I bring it in, it will start to get blurry as it's not able to refocus the lens. And even more clearer if we try it on the back of the box, and you can see that small text is pretty much unreadable close up. So about 30 centimeters away is about that. Everything is pretty sharp, and yeah, anything into the background, but yeah, anything too close will blur out. So do understand, yeah, there's a limitation of the web camera, but for most people that shouldn't really pose a problem. In fact, it can be a useful feature in as much as being plug and play reduces the complexity of the web camera. You don't need to worry about locking the focus, or even indeed the autofocus kind of, you know, sometimes going out of focus and locking out of focus, which web cameras can typically do and be quite an annoyance. So not going to be a problem with this lens. Before we finish this video, I did want to show you what this looks like in pretty dim lighting conditions. So I've turned off all the lights in the room. We've got obviously the monitor on. There is some light coming in from the window behind my PC, but it's not particularly bright. It is quite dim in my room, but I figured this is, you know, probably about the worst lighting conditions that you'd use a web camera like this in. I turned auto exposure back on, since when you're running lower light conditions, you do want to just use the auto settings, and it kind of brings up the levels, and it's not too bad. I think it's okay. Obviously it's not great. You know, you do lose a little bit of the picture quality, and you're going to get a little bit more fuzz on the image, but overall I think it's certainly good enough. You know, in these conditions. So yeah, not too bad in sort of like non-optimal lighting conditions. I think this is working just fine. Okay, it's time to wrap up this review for the Papalook PA930 web camera. Excellent picture quality, happy about that. Microphone is not very good at all. I mean, it's terrible. Don't buy it for the microphone, buy it for the excellent picture quality. And I think it is doing a really good job there. Also, don't forget it includes this very good accessory, this tripod. It's all metal and extendable legs. I think that's nice as well. So it's kind of rare to get something like this with a web camera, something you'd spend a few pounds for normally. That's nice to see, and price is really fair as well. You know, it's not an expensive web camera, and it does compete very well, at least on image quality, to more expensive web cameras, more expensive brands out there. So that's good to see. And also you get this crazy field of view button, because that's what I'm going to call it, the field of view button, since that's what it's doing. And actually quite a good feature that I would quite happily would like to see on other web cameras, to be honest. That's kind of clever, it works. Although maybe that's not what it's supposed to be for. That's what it does. It's a field of view button. Yeah, excellent. And there you go, guys. Let's end it for this one. I'll leave a link in the description to the product page if you're interested. But yeah, that ends this review, and I'll be back soon with something new. So until next time, take care and bye-bye.